The Saints survive out in the desert, beat Arizona 16-14. Look, a lot of struggles in that game, a lot of stuff we causing some concern, but there were some bright spots. And some of this needs to be put in context about what actually went on last night that I think a lot of people are missing. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. And I think one of the things um, that we kind of need to mention here is it was almost like a tale of two games. I kind of saw this last night, got up early this morning, rewatched, um, kind of double checking some of the notes I had taken. But when the first team was out there, both offensively and defensively, but especially offensively, it was almost like we were we were doing things that um, probably most people wouldn't recognize as part of what we were supposed to be doing, especially in that wide zone scheme offense, especially in the passing game, that part of it. Um, we weren't seeing like eye candy. Um, we were seeing very basic motions when they used it, stuff you normally used to seeing, but none of the jet sweep motions, orbit motions, cheat motions, none of that stuff. Nothing real exotic, no RPOs. And to show you, um, what we didn't see at all with the ones. We saw it once with the twos and once with the threes. And that's the actual play action out of the wide zone look. Wide zone left, play action rollout to Holker. Nice pitch and catch, pick up a big first down. There was none of that when the first team was out there. And really when Haener first came in, they started substituting on the offensive line. They left the starting tackles out there. Fuaga and Penning played a little longer. Once Patrick went to center, when McCoy came out, and they kind of shuffled the guards around a little bit. I was expecting to see at least some of that. I knew they weren't game planning. They weren't going to show a lot. In fact, they were so not game planning and not watching film. I did hear Carr mention that um, part of the things they had to do, and this may have been why Kubiak was up in the booth last night. People kind of made a big deal about that. Was Kubiak told them before the game, "Look, I'll call down and tell you who the nickel corner is." Was one of the examples he gave, but basically the personnel without film and game planning, they don't necessarily know. So he was kind of waiting for Kubiak to see who was coming on the field for Arizona, kind of calling out who's what when they're trying to run these plays. So no eye candy, no real um, component of the wide zone play action off the run fake because they do it again right here. And this time, instead of Hoker lining up on the play side and beating two guys, he came across the formation from the left side to catch basically the same route and another nice pitch and catch and good play. Again, not really seeing much of that, if any, on those first 10 plays when Carr, the five starting offensive linemen were out there, when Alvin was in the game for a couple of his carries. Now we did see a little bit of the wide zone run scheme, but not a whole bunch of that because of those 10 plays, 6 of them were pass plays. And all 6 of them came from pass pro. The one thing that this scheme does not want to get itself into, we kept calling plays with it. And I did see some comments made around social media and watching some of the post game interviews and videos, comments in the bottom, people complaining, "Oh, it's the same old offense. It's same old Dennis Allen this," and just losing their minds. And I'm like, hold on, let's take a step back and take a deep breath about what they were doing. And I think what they were doing was this was like an extended training camp practice, is especially upon second watch. I really like they were situationally putting these guys in tough spots for their few plays that they were getting and doing it again with the two guys they left out there tackles going, look, this is one of the problems we had situationally during training camp. Remember when we were talking about losing lots of one-on-ones, the offensive line to the defense? Well, it was in situations like this, on third downs, on kind of obvious passing situations where you were going to be put in pass pro. And as Eric McCoy said, you are going to be dropping back. And that's when it gets really hard. And across the line, you got to win 5 1-on-1s. And I think that was the game plan. We're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep getting work at it. We're going to get film on it. There was some stuff happening. We'll go through it in a second. That's correctable. It looked bad. It killed a drive in some instances, but it's correctable stuff. Some of it is beyond correctable and it's concerning, and we'll kind of talk about that also. But for the most part, I mean, when you're talking about the first 10 drives on offense, he started with an inside zone left with Alvin for 5 yards, put a star by that one first. That is a great first down play in this offense. Very next play, Carr's under center, 3-step drop, pass pro, no play fake, no anything. He had Hill on the out route on the outside. Looks like he was going to get the ball to him. And that's the one where the ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage. And here's a learning moment for the rookie. Now, I don't know the solution to this exactly because I've never been an offensive lineman, but I do know what basically happened on that 3-step drop. That defensive end recognized it and he stopped and was ready to jump up with his hands up, and Fuaga was still sitting back. The Fuaga's got to get his hands on him some kind of way or do something where he can't do that because that ball got tipped up, batted back towards the line of scrimmage and almost got intercepted if not for Cedric Wilson breaking it up. But on that one, he had a clean pocket. Carr had the time on that 3-step. He had Hill in the out route and saw him, and that's where the ball was going when he got tipped. That's something that can be correctable, I think, fairly easily with John Benton, Kubiak, Janako, Carr, and Fuaga just having probably a 5-minute conversation about, hey, Ruck, this is what we're doing. This is what the quarterback's going to be doing. This is what you need to do because it's 3-step drop. The ball's coming out fast. He doesn't have there's not a whole lot he can do. Ball's got to go where it's got to go. And so that's a drive killer. It was, because now you're in 3rd and 5, and we'll talk about the next play in a second. But that's correctable. That's a teachable moment. That's okay. That's what this is all about. It's preseason, and these guys have to go through this and learn. Now, Fuaga can't let it happen again, but this can't happen week 1. But it's preseason week 1. It happened. Fix it. Let's move on. The next play was another pass pro. No play fake, no nothing. That was from the shotgun. Carter Olave for 10. They used a little motion finally on that play with Foster across the formation, but it was nothing really exotic, not the eye candy stuff that you see in this offense. Carr had a clean pocket on that one, and pass was a little behind Olave, but he caught the contested ball, picks up the first down, keeps the chains moving. Great play all around. One little thing about Carr being late on that, because it happens again, and I think that was just a little bit on that first couple of plays. That there was a couple of them where the timing, whether it was a running play or a pass play, whatever, just a little off. Even the Kamara run on first down, it looked like it was just a little off, like a half second quicker. Everything, he had a bigger hole where he could have made a bigger play. That'll come with time. Fourth play was an inside zone run with Williams for 3. Positive yards. You got to stay out of the chains, but you want at least 4. Then you had the screen, which there was no sell going on anywhere. That Arizona looks like they sniffed that out right immediately, and Carr ended up having to throw it on the ground because he literally had nowhere to go with that except take a sack, which he didn't. Next play was another straight drop pass pro. Nothing really deceitful going on. We're just running the offense. And he threw incompletion to Olave, and he had a decent pocket on that one. It wasn't as clean as the one earlier, but it wasn't bad. He didn't have any real pressure coming, but he had to get rid of the ball. I mean, he wouldn't have been able to hold it much longer. It was starting to get dirty. But still, you can live with that. And that was the one right at the last second because Olave was open on the out route on the offensive left, and the DB at the last second managed to tip it away. And I think that was another one. The timing was just off by a split second. That ball's out sooner. That's a big completion to Olave. So all in all, you didn't see it in the offense you were expecting to see. For the most part, you didn't have a horrible play in this set. You had two really good ones in the first run and the first completion to Olave. Everything else you can kind of live with, and you kind of look at it and you go, it probably can be fixed without much trouble. And it was just, hey, we're putting these guys in situations, and we were forcing those five up front. Hey, you're gonna have to block that pass rush because we're not doing all the stuff that we would normally be doing if this was a regular season game, trying to help you guys out. I'm sure they're going to do it come the regular season game. The next round, right off the bat, it was straight drop pass pro again. Now this time it was an incompletion to Olave, and Penning gave up a pressure on that one. That pocket got dirty real quick, and Carr was taking a little heat. The next play was another ugly one, so we just kind of went back to back with them. I think it was supposed to be a wide zone left. This is the one Alvin got caught for -2, which cannot happen in this offense. No negative runs, and it happened sure as shit on that play. Very ugly. The edge player came in basically untouched. Nobody did anything about it. We had Moreau and Fuaga on that left side. If it was a wide zone left, one of them would have had the responsibility to kick that edge player out to give him a running lane. There's also the possibility, and Stinchcomb mentioned this, that it could have been somebody should have come from the backside, almost like maybe a split zone look. Should have been pulling from the backside to kick that guy out because uh, Fuaga was helping on the inside with one of the defensive linemen, and Moreau went out and actually got on the linebacker at the next level. So I couldn't possibly guess whether it was one of those two blowing a wide zone left or somebody on the other side missing the call at a split zone, and they had to pull across the line and kick that edge player out. Either way, Alvin got smushed for -2, so can't happen. Next play was pass pro, had decent pocket pressure. They never showed a downfield angle. I don't know what was going on, but it was 4-man rush, 7 in coverage. It might have just been covered up, and Carr was still trying to find someone. And then he got late pressure from Penning side, and that's when he had to check it down to Williams for a 2-yard gain. That was clearly a check down. So I'm kind of thinking there was probably some good coverage down there, nobody really getting open. And to keep all this in context, we were trying to do all this pass pro without our number 2 receiver. Shaheed might be able to open some of this up a little bit too, and the timing might be a little better. So just saying. And both of these drives ended with Boo Headley kicking. I think he had a 45 and a 44. Got them both inside the 10. One was downed inside the 10. The other one that ended this drive got to the 9. It was a 4-yard return, so it was inside the 15 net. I'm going to talk a little bit about the next drive because that's when the substitution started. Haener came in, but I think, and we can talk about Rattler at the same time while this is going on. I think for the most part, they played okay. I don't think any of them popped their eyeballs out with wildness or anything, but at the same time, they didn't completely suck either. They both had some very nice plays, some big time throws. They both looked great when we actually ran the wide zone play action rollout. That was two of their better plays, each one of them, the variation of that. But what I was really impressed with, and if you think about what happened a few days ago at practice when they were running end of half drills, the first team struggled, but that was one of the days where both Haener and Rattler outshined the 2s and 3s, outshined the 1s. They got them down the field and made plays. And some of the names like Samson Nakua had some catches. A.T. Perry in that had some catches. That was some of their better days. You saw it happen again, and I was very happy to see that. Go down there, they both made some tough throws and some big time throws. A.T. Perry makes a big time catch. Nakua on the last drive to win the game makes a big time catch on a big time throw on the back shoulder fake. So that's the stuff you're going, man, we can build on that. These guys are they're gonna develop. And I think this is probably the third or fourth video in the row I'm gonna say talking about them. I really think they're gonna develop. It's just not gonna be tomorrow. It's not gonna be next week. It's not gonna be in a couple weeks. But I think by the time the season rolls around, if we get in a tight spot, because the other thing that they showed, they can run the offense. They didn't look lost. They looked like they knew where they were going with the ball, what was happening. When stuff broke down, they were both Rattler, especially, he got a bump for being able to move around and extend plays. But at the same time, I thought Haener a couple of times did that really well too. The only bad, horrible throw that I can think either one of them made, um, and hey, kid, try to make a play, I guess, maybe in the preseason, and no, and we're not going to do that again. Is that out that Haener tried to throw that almost got picked, and if it had gotten picked, that'd have been 6 points the other way. So another great example of teaching moment going, then don't do that again. You know, appreciate the fact you were trying to make a play, but don't put the ball in jeopardy like that again. Defensively in those drives, because that was pretty much our first team defense, I think it's safe to say they played extremely well. The front looked nasty as hell. They brought a lot of pressure. They played the run well in those drives, really kind of the first three. I don't think you saw a lot of defensive breakdowns until we started substituting there. So, but even then, it wasn't real bad, except for the running quarterback problem, reared its ugly head all of a sudden. We handled Ritter early, um, but he started making some plays, opening some stuff up, um, and as we progressed, it was kind of like one of these things where, for whatever reason, um, the offense seemed to get better once the subs started coming in. Like our twos and threes were kind of playing a little better. That's where all our points came from. Our bigger plays came in those scenarios, and defensively, we were up here handling their ones, and then it kind of went this way as we're subbing the D guys. You started seeing a lot of completions. Ritter started going off. Toon just came in and early on was throwing lasers all over the place that we couldn't defend. So again, it was like a tale of two games. It really was. Um, I think also to keep this in context, you do have to mention who didn't play. Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. for them. Um, Benson started at running back. Connor, James Conner is normally their number one. He didn't play, but Benson is a pretty good running back. So, and Connor, they're kind of a different style running back. So I don't know how much that would have affected or not what went on with the running game, but they might have had a little bit of running game with Connor in there. Um, for us, obviously, our starting corners weren't there, and I think we did a fantastic job of handling them. Um, even though they didn't have their starting cornerback and their de facto number one receiver. So think of it as like the fair trade off. I think those were like probably the four biggest names that didn't actually play in this game. Um, outside of DeMario and Werner, which gets me to the next point. I thought our backup linebackers played really well, especially Willie Gay. Technically, he's a starter on the strong side, but he was all over the place. So I think our linebacker depth that we used to just be so scared of came in last night and played. All of them, I think, played very, very well. I don't think anybody didn't play well at all in the linebacking core. Um, probably the last thing I'm going to say on this is Headley, like we mentioned earlier, um, that was kind of their thing about just like pinning them back, give us the hang time so we can cover. The only reason why I mentioned this is because when Haybell came in a little later, he boomed a long one, and it was still a good net, but they got a pretty decent return off of it. Um, and I bring this up for this because, and about when we start kind of breaking down the key stats and what's going on, I do think one of the things that may have to go on early while we're still trying to figure out get this offense right, um, and working correctly and in timing and everything else. Hopefully, it happens by game one. There's a chance it doesn't, and this is going to cause pain to hear for Saints fans. I get it. But there just may be a situational um, thing going on here where they're going to have to play a little complimentary football, especially on teams that our defense can handle. And go, look, it's probably going to be more about keeping the clock running, trying to stay ahead of the chains, don't putting ourselves in a bad position, don't create turnovers and pick six moments or anything like that. Let's play field position. Let's let our defense do a lot of work. And when the offense has a chance to score, they got to score. And when our kickers come in to kick a field goal, if that's what we're held to, they got to nail that too, which is going to remind us a little bit of last year. However, I think until the offense fully integrates and clicks in other words, you might have to win some games ugly, even though we don't want to do that. And we're looking for the time when this offense is going to be pretty, like you got in Frisco now. But keep in mind, it took them a couple of years to get to that point. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's a possibility of happening here if we don't kind of start picking this whole thing up just a little quicker and winning our one-on-ones. That's still kind of an issue. So kind of just some takeaways from, I mean, what I'm considering just really a glorified training camp practice where they were keeping score. And there was some stuff at stake. Obviously, you want to come out with the win. It's a very high moment. It's a beautiful moment for Charlie Smyth. We'll talk about that in a second. But those first 10 offensive plays, I mean, it broke down. They threw the ball 6 times, and offense that wants to run the ball more and establish the run. We threw it more than we tried to run it. And in those 6 pass attempts, you had no wide zone look, play action off of it, or any type of play action. No type of eye candy with the motion, anything, any misdirection, anything. It was like playing it straight up in the passing game there. No RPOs, which, I think that's something that's probably going to have to be integrated in this offense and used in lieu of trying to go past pro possibly and putting, especially pinning in a bad spot. And of those 6, I mean, they had 2 clean pockets. One that kind of got dirty, one that was dirty with a late pressure, started coming down and then pinning kind of got beat towards the end of it. One that pinning gave up a pressure almost from the get that Carr had to deal with. And then the 6th one was the screen, which I don't even know why, where they got tipped, whatever. But Arizona just blew that up almost from the get go and had no chance. So I would say on that one. One thing about the O line, though, in that first 10, they did not give up a sack, and they gave up the 1 tackle for loss on Alvin's second run, which blown assignment somewhere. Just don't know who it was, but whoever it was, get the rules down correct. That's going to tell you who's got to go take care of that guy so he doesn't tackle Alvin in the backfield. Um, Defensively, look, I just don't have a lot of complaints about the Saints, especially in the first team and most of the seconds, other than letting Ritter start busting loose and struggling with Tune a little bit. Now, I think that also when Tune came in, we had started doing some substitution across the defensive line, and we weren't quite getting that intense pressure when Granderson and Young and Brzee and those guys were in there. Although there were some ones and twos interspersed, and I think some of them were still coming in. It wasn't like the main group we saw in the first 2 series for Arizona where they were basically 3 and out, where we were just all over them, had a sack on the first drive. Brazil made a nice play when for a sack in there on those series when Ritter tried to come out and run up the middle, and he had an open field to do some damage. And Brazil, using that athletic ability that I like so much, came off his block and caught him basically right at the line of scrimmage for no gain, and they gave him credit for a sack. So that kind of stuff was going on early, and we need to see that. And it literally our back end was just not getting any pressure because of how well the front 4 and Willie Gay was playing. I think they were alternating line because I remember seeing DeMarco Jackson in that point. Anthony Orge was in there at that point. So even some of those guys were coming in and playing really well in that group. Keep that D line healthy. Get the linebackers healthy and the two corners. I mean, when you're talking about we're missing four of our better players weren't there last night in the middle level and the back level. They show back up. I'm liking this defense more and more. I think we've kind of turned the corner and did the adjustments and brought in the people we need to make this thing elite again, like it was for quite a long stretch. Um, the only knock, and at times it was good. It really was. The run defense was good at times, but at times it was really shaky. And I'm not talking about the Ritter runs. I'm talking straight runs. There was one in particular that Foskey kind of boo-booed a little bit on and let I think that was Benson, but it might have been Carter get outside of him for a pretty decent long gain. Can't have that. But honestly, I really can't bitch at Foskey's play yesterday because overall he was a different guy than we saw last year when we did manage to see him. And I don't know if we really saw him when he was on the field and we didn't notice him because he wasn't doing much. He was very active. He had some good pressures. He had um, stuff to build on. Um, Gain a little confidence that maybe when those edge guys need a rest, when he comes in, we're not losing anything, and we got a guy that can come in and make plays as the two that needs to be in the rotation so we can keep those guys fresh. Um, really, and late in the game, some of the now I get it's the threes and I guess maybe the fours and whatever here. The camp bodies at some point are floating around. Who knows? But there were some of those guys back there played really well in the third and fourth quarter. Um, Rico Payton comes to mind. I think he had 3 pass defended. Like he was giving good coverage, and they tried to go towards him. He was breaking up passes. Roderick Teamer had a couple nice plays again. Nico Lalos played well on the edge and had a sack. Um, Heflin uh, came in defensive tackle, and he's a name nobody's really thought about or mentioned much. Came in, had a sack with that late group. Also had a rough in the passing column, but because he got tripped up by an offensive lineman, but, it is what it is. Kaliki Hudson played well in that stretch. He had a sack. Um, and I am forgetting someone that I just popped in my head that I didn't have written down. But we got some guys down there that I don't know if they were turning heads in practice, and it was going up against Arizona's threes and fours. I get all that, but they made some decent plays and some guys that I don't know if they're going to make the 53, but some of these guys I'm pretty sure are going to be on the practice squad, and you know, all intents and purposes, they definitely need to be. Oh, Jalen Ford, sorry, came in. I didn't think he was going to play because I thought he was still injured, but he got out there. He made a couple nice plays, and so did Christian Boyd earlier. Boyd kind of ran with the twos and made a couple nice run stop plays. That's kind of what he's there for. So, I mean, we're talking mostly about the defensive backups, but as a group, like I said, Arizona made some plays, but as individuals, talking about winning some one on ones, some of these guys were winning some one on ones and making some plays. Going to kind of need that. Uh, Now we're going to go to the backups on offense. Not a lot of confidence in the backups in the offensive line. I barely have confidence in the 5 starters. Because when I was talking earlier about all the stuff we didn't do in the offense to help them out, I was in no way, shape, or form trying to make any excuses for them other than the fact that they were shaky in those first 2. Didn't give up a sack. Penny gave up some pressures. There were some near moments where we even in the running game, like in Williams Street, we didn't get great blocking up there, but it wasn't totally blown up. They did again blow the assignment on Alvin's second run. So all in all, like maybe a C grade on the offensive line across the board for their 10 plays or so, including adding in Pennings and Fuagas when they were running with Haener in the twos. But losing one-on-ones, I'm amazed, other than the fact that I think that goes to show how well Haener and Rattler can run the offense and be able to move around back there and keep themselves out of trouble. Because you rewatch when those 2 and 3 and further down offensive linemen coming in and losing one-on-ones, we were losing an awful lot of them. And in that span, I think we only gave up 1 sack. So Um, I still have concerns on the offensive line, especially at the tackle position. Will say this: it looks like Kyle Hargel. He may be making a strong push to make 53 because he did look good when he came in playing guard. So and Lemieux looked passable. I think he played mostly center. Came in after they moved Patrick there with the threes. But other than that, I can't say a whole lot of good things about. Sorry to say about any of the second teamers. Um, I think the players of the game kind of in this, but we're still talking about the players. Got to go Willie Gay on defense. I thought he was extraordinary, but you could have picked Young. You could have picked Brzee. There's a couple guys up front that played really, really well. Um, Offensively, it's got to be A.T. Perry. He was only 4 targets, 85, caught the big one from Haener, set up a field goal. The drive before when Haener led him to a field goal, he had a couple nice catches in there to keep things going. So the most consistent guy out there that played the most snaps, I guess, would probably be Perry. And special teams, well, we got to give it to Charlie Smyth. Sorry, uh, first kick ever in American football game and drills it to it is preseason, but give the guy props. Great job, won the game for us. And like I said, Haener and Rattler, I thought were kind of up and down, but they both looked fantastic on their last drives. Haener to close out the first half, and Rattler to close out the game and get Smith in position to kick the game winner. Um, just kind of cruising through the stats. It's real hard to parse stats when you start looking at the first team and then start having subs. And again, we really weren't running the offense, especially with our first team. We were expecting to run. Um, it's sometimes hard, but I think there was a couple things caught my eye. No turnovers in this game, which is great. We didn't commit any, but you'd kind of like to see our defense, as well as they played, actually get somewhere. None of that going on. We got 4 sacks. We only allowed one, and that surprised me. I really thought we had given up more than 1 sack in that game, but there was some pressure. But for the most part, the quarterbacks avoided a negative play when there was. So that's good. Um, Tackles for losses on running plays, both teams had one. So even though I thought we played the run well at nice at times, and only giving up 1 or 2 or 3 yard runs, Willie Gay had the one TFL in the backfield. So kind of hoping to see that number go up. Our run defense get a little better. Third down efficiency, we were 33%. Arizona's 42%. Don't like that. That's like to kind of see that reversed, maybe, but and especially since third down last couple of years, we couldn't convert them, especially when we needed to on offense, and we had trouble stopping the other team on third down, especially when we needed to on defense. So that trend's got to break. Now, I don't care what the conditions are, whether it's preseason, regular season, whatever you're talking about. That has got to that trend's got to stop. We've got to get better converting third down. We've got to get better getting off the field on third down. 9 penalties, way too much. A lot of them self-inflicted. We had the false starts, jumping off sides on a hard count, those pre-snaps that just seemed to plague us. They popped up again last night. Couple holding penalties. One of them, Haener or Rattler. I do not remember which quarterback was in, but I think it was Haener. Actually got pressure up the middle. It was Haener because it was Udo and left guard and Patrick had come in at center, and they got split by the inside defender. Flushed Haener out to his right, did a good job of seeing it and getting out of there. And when he was flushed from the pocket, Penning, who was actually doing a decent job up until that point, suddenly got himself in a holding situation. Grabbed the guy, and like it was obvious when the flag came out, Stinchcomb was saying, "Oh yeah, they're going to get Penning for holding." Like everybody saw it, which is the problem when that happens and you're out on that edge and a quarterback rolls and you do something like that. Flags coming every time, so can't have that. I think Haener ended up throwing an incompletion, but still gives you negative play because they're backing you up 10 yards, and we don't want that in this offense. Um, so that was really like kind of just cruising through the numbers, the stuff I noticed. Like to get the turnovers up, um, start winning the turnover margin. I think that's important. I think that's something that really needs to be emphasized on defense this year. We've got the guys to be able to do it. Um, the 4-to-1 sack ratio, kind of good thing. So stay with that. But the penalties got to get cleaned up. The missed plays have to get cleaned up. Um, I didn't see any of the tackling numbers yet on the game, but I think we did a pretty good job of that, which is something we needed to clean up because we had too many missed tackles last year. So all in all, the bright spots, there were a few. I think you had to look hard to find them. I think some of the stuff that was getting banged on with the offensive line was definitely deserved. There were some problems there. There were some bad plays. There were some bad decisions. But I think also some of it was we weren't necessarily trying to help them. We were trying to push them and go, you're going to have to hold up. You're going to have to win some one on ones. The struggle in that is I don't think they won enough of them. Definitely not what you wanted to see. So, all in all, um, I mean, I'm not overly impressed, but I'm not down in the dumps. I had low expectations for this game, and they probably exceeded what I thought just slightly, but not by much. Um, so hopefully, with Frisco coming in this week, the joint practices, and then going in the next week, week 2 in preseason, we're going to start seeing some of that big jump of all this coming together and working the way we need it to work, especially on the offensive side, and then just clean up some of the issues on the defense. I think the run defense and turnovers is probably two things I'd like to see an improvement on. So, like people always want like some type of grading system or you know scale, 1 to 10, whatever. Um, I don't normally do a whole bunch of stuff like that, but if I was forced to grade it or put it on a scale, it would be hard to put it at average. I would say below average total. Um, the bright spots were bright. There were some things that were really, really good. But when I keep looking at the struggles where they are, that's problematic. And either and it's a lot at offensive tackle. That's where a lot of it's sitting. They either have to get better or the Saints are going to have to find somebody else to come in and be better because if Flog and Penning aren't playing well or something else happens, I think it gets really bad after that. And that could be that's the problem, the struggle, everything. I think you solve that issue and all of a sudden everything's going to start looking a lot more rosy. So uh, if you agree with that assessment, give me the thumbs up. Let me know what you thought about the game. I think a lot of fans are some very mixed opinion about what was good and what was bad, but there was definitely good and bad in there. You look hard enough and you keep things in context, you can definitely find it. So don't forget next week, Sunday night, Jason and I will be live for the post game. So it's going to be a lot more knee jerk reaction than I gave today, where I had time to analyze it, rewatch, and think about it again. Either way, it should be fun. So, till next time I see you, peace out. Who dat?